And it's Christian B. Burnaby, Vancouver-based real estate agent. Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire Real Estate. Glad to have you with me. For today's video, we're going to talk on 5 topics here, and you can take that intel with you out into the marketplace. And as always, if you want more guidance and help, you can find me by my contact in the show notes below. Now, for today's video, let me give you a quick agenda. 1, we're going to talk about townhouses. Where can you find some really good townhouses? Where should you probably avoid? Second is an update on the condo market in downtown Vancouver, and where does the advantage to the buyers go, and where can the sellers expect to get better results? We're going to talk about tariffs very briefly, who will feel the impact immediately. And I want to talk fourth here is about this mortgage cliff that we used to hear about the last couple of years, and why isn't it happening? And I'll give you my own sort of personal story on what I did when I faced my own cliff, and that'll be it for today. So we have those 4 topics that we're going to touch on. So let's start off with the average price of a townhouse. It's now $1.08 million across the greater Vancouver area. And that's, of course, from everything from UBC running right out to Maple Ridge and in between. Now, there's different types of townhouse products in different locations. They're not all equal. So I would say to you, a lot of the newer product I see in East Van, I'm not a big fan. They're very narrow. They're small. They're 1,000 square feet, 1,100 square feet. I just find it's like living in a sardine can. You are looking at maybe 2 bedrooms. That's a popular new product, a 2-bedroom townhouse. And sometimes there's somebody living above you or below you, which really makes it feel like a condo, if you ask me. So I'm not the biggest fan of sort of the newer product we see in East Van. Burnaby is, I would also say the townhouses that you see out here are sort of a mix mash of stuff. You know, over in the Edmonds area, you'd get some townhomes. But again, you've got, these are stacked townhouses that feel more like condos. They're very boxy. You might get a 900 square foot townhouse on 2 levels. It's very tight living. It might work for an individual or a couple, maybe if you have 1 kid, but I'm not a big fan of them. But where you do find better product, I think, is in a place like OAKWYN, where you have 2 examples of this. You have a master plan community in Westwood Plateau, and then you have another one, which is sort of Westwood Plateau Junior, which is Burke Mountain. Great for families, very popular. Here, your entry-level townhouse probably runs you at about $1 million, $1.1 million. And you get 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, sometimes you got a double car garage. At the very least, you have a tandem style garage. That's parking 1 car in front of the other. Sometimes you got a little backyard with it too. So that's why you get the higher price point. It's a nicer community. If you have the luxury of working from home, it's a perfect setup. I've had multiple clients buy out in Burke Mountain over the years. If the only issue with it obviously is the commute into the city, but that would be my first recommendation. The second one would be Westwood Plateau. Very nice. Again, it's a little bit higher up in the mountain there, so you're going to get more snow in the wintertime. But it's this, again, master plan community, maybe 20, 25-year-old townhomes, very similar. Some of them are very spacious, like 1,900 square feet in size. So it may need some updating if you're buying one of those. Port Moody, very similar to the Westwood Plateau area. And just good options, decent schools. You've got a big hospital up in up in that area as well. Queensboro in New Westminster. Now, the problem with Queensboro is you got to get over the bridge, and sometimes it's backed up with traffic, and that's the one deal killer there. But if again you're working from home and or affordability is absolutely the most important thing to you, you can score a very nice 3-bed, 2-bath 1,400 square foot townhouse in Queensboro for $950,000. Where else are you going to get that? If you pick that townhouse up and you move it over the river and drop it in Burnaby or East Van, you're adding $200,000 to the price easily. So that would be a recommendation if affordability is the most important thing to you. Now, and that would be my comment on townhomes. Another popular location is Willoughby Heights and Langley, where you maybe if affordability is really tight, you could get something there for $850, $900, close to shopping. But boy, Langley is really car dependent. You're looking at 2-car families out there to make it work for the most part. Okay, so that's my thoughts on townhouses. Again, the average here, $1.08 million for a townhouse. Now, an update on condos in Vancouver, and I was looking through the most recent numbers that came out for February 2025, and some interesting numbers. Sales were a little stronger than I was expecting for the downtown area, but there's areas where buyers have an advantage. If you are buying a 2-bedroom downtown, you definitely have the leverage. There were 521 listings in the month of February, and there were only 47 sales. So it's less than 9%. 9% sold. So if you're buying a 2-bedroom, you got an option. I know there's certain buildings, good stratas, concrete high-rises, more boutique-style buildings where you can just a little over $1 million, you can get a pretty good product. So that would be where I would be focusing if I were wanting a 2-bedroom downtown. Also, buyers have the advantage in Cole Harbour. Cole Harbour, there were 146 listings and only 7 sold in February. I mean, that's very, very slow. So you got now, Cole Harbour is it's newer, it's by the water, it's going to be more expensive. The higher you go, if you're up at north of $1.5 million, there's not a lot of buyers for that product, right? It's just, you're so high in altitude, there's very little air traffic up there is another analogy for it. So that would be where you have an advantage as a buyer. Sellers have an advantage. So if you're looking to sell, if we were selling your 1-bedroom downtown, things look still very good for you. So there were 69 sales of 1-bedrooms from, when I mean downtown, I'm saying downtown, Yaletown, West End, and Cole Harbour. And 69 out of 414 listings. So a 16% sales ratio, which would be considered a balanced market. Okay, so for you doom and gloomers out there, that's a decent market. The 1990s, that was very common at that time. Okay, moving along from downtown, tariffs, quick comment. Who's going to feel it the most immediately? That would be people doing home renovations. I had a client reach out and ask me this question yesterday, and I said, if you're buying appliances, you're buying tiles for the bathroom, for the kitchen, and you're getting flooring, a lot of it coming in from the United States, you're probably paying a 25% tariff on a lot of those products. So maybe not right now as of tomorrow, but in the months ahead, if they stay in place, those are going to be the people that feel it immediately. Somebody doing a home renovation. Okay, you're not going to see the tariffs reflected in the prices of homes just yet, because 99% of what you see online is existing supply. So there's no new building going into it. However, 4, 5, 6 years from now, of course, new product could be a lot more expensive because builders are buying more expensive items, and they're going to pass that cost on to you. Now, I want to finish this video off with, where do people get the money? This is a question. This is a question I was asked by someone recently, wondering why we haven't crossed the mortgage cliff. Remember all those news articles you would read about Canada's facing a doomsday in mortgage renewals? All those people who got really cheap mortgages in 2020 at 2%, 2.5%, 3% in 2021. Well, when they renew their mortgage in 2025, and their payments go up, they're going to be forced to sell, and there's going to be a lot more listings on the market, and that means the prices are going to nosedive. Why are we not seeing that? Well, I'll give you an example why you're not seeing that, because most people are resourceful. People buying homes have the income to support them. They're not redlining themselves, meaning they're not maxing themselves out to the point where if interest rates went up a little bit, they'd be out of a home. The second thing is they have a lot in savings. So you look at someone who was buying over $1 million as of, well, in the last 5 years, those people had a $200,000 down payment. So I'll give you myself as an example. When the rates jumped in 2022, I did several things to avoid going over the cliff myself with our own little family. First thing was I dug into my savings to make up for the gap. So our payment jumped several $1,000s a month. Let that sink in for you. That's a big jump in monthly mortgage payments to go up several $1,000s a month. And well, we had the savings to handle that, one. Second is I then canceled my mortgage and moved it to another bank after repeated attempts of trying to renegotiate with my present lender and exploring every option under the sun, believe you and me. Moved it to another bank, thereby bringing my payment down by I think over $2,000 a month, maybe about $2,500 if I remember correctly. So that was going to save me $2,500 a month. The third thing that I did here was I started putting lump sum payments, and I'm talking about six-figure lump sum payments to drastically bring down my mortgage amount. And then the last thing we did was delay purchases. So, for example, if you were to meet with me, you'd see me driving a 2005 Ford Focus. Now, that's a car I bought used quite some time ago, and it's a very pedestrian vehicle. But one of the things is during tough times, you got to tighten your belt. And you really have to have a little bit of impulse control. So those fancy trips you want to take, those expensive, $70,000, $80,000 cars, dial it back. Put it on hold for a couple of years. That's what I did. And now I can go out car shopping and I don't need to worry about the budget like I would have 2-3 years ago. So those are the things that most people in my position have been doing. I mean, look, people are going to be resourceful. And I was looking at some examples online of the so-called mortgage cliff that we heard so much about. And I found something very interesting here from loanscanada.ca. And they give you this little example. And I want you to let this sink in. So they write here, they say, to illustrate, let's assume a homeowner took out a $500,000 fixed rate mortgage for 3 years at 3.5%. They're making $2,500 monthly payments, and at the end of 3 years, the debt to the bank, the loan outstanding, drops to $460K. Okay, now they say if the homeowner renews their loan at the same at 6.89%, their payments are going to jump to $3,200 a month. Yeah, sure, that's a big jump. That's a $700 a month jump in payments. But I got a question for you. Who in the right mind is renewing their mortgage at 7%? Now, I don't know who baked that assumption into this article, but and even when this was written 15 months ago, nobody was renewing a mortgage at 7%, at least not my clients. If they were talking to me, I was putting them in contact with mortgage brokers who were renewing it at maybe a little over 5%. I renewed a mortgage at, what was it, like 5.2% about a little over a year ago. So you were not paying 7%. Somebody who is renewing a mortgage now who took out a loan 3 years ago for $500,000, their payments are about the same. I mean, you can get a mortgage. I just talked to someone 2 days ago who's been pre-approved at 4%. With one of the bigger banks. So I don't know where these articles come from online that talk about this mortgage cliff, and the examples and the numbers they use are just completely fallacious. And if these were assumptions they had back then, boy, oh boy, were those assumptions wrong. So you got to be very careful with what you read. Look, I'm in the industry day in, day out. And so I might be reading this stuff 45 minutes, an hour every day. I'm talking to industry insiders, mortgage brokers, insurance agents, other real estate agents. And I just, I can just tell you that a lot of this stuff is it's not going to happen. People are not going to throw the keys on the table. We have seen mortgage delinquencies rise in the last 18 months, but not to a level that's concerning. So don't worry about that kind of stuff. I think we've got much bigger issues here with the unfortunately, the nutcase in the White House right now, who through diktat seems to want to change the world order. That's going to have a bigger impact on Canadians looking to do their renovation than anything that has to do with mortgage renewals at the moment. Okay, I hope that's been of help to you. Sorry if this one's gone on a little bit longer. Look, guys, feel free to leave your opinions, comments below. We'll see you next time. Thank you.